Hey everybody, so we are back, 6 feet under Exhumed. I am Kari the Mortician.
I'm Faith, that mortuary professor. This is season 3, episode 9. That's 9. It's called The Open. like, oh God.
How
It's,
many?
oh, okay. Well, your name was like blocking your hand for me, so I
Oh,
was like, I don't know. 9. Um, and it's called The Opening. And we start this episode with a woman who is probably early middle aged. And I don't know, I'd put her what, maybe
she's
40. I think
48.
you
I wrote
40,
down her
48.
age.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. 48. And she is like packing some stuff up in her house and putting like stuff in a suitcase and putting tags on it with a name. And then, just kind of doing some more things around her house. And then you see these envelopes with people's names on them. And then she goes into her garage and starts her car and closes the door. So she has died by suicide by, I mean, is that carbon monoxide? Look how stupid I am. Poisoning when you do that to you. I own an auto shop and I'm a funeral director.
Now
Is
you're
that,
making me second
I know,
guess.
I'm like, is that really? I guess it is so she has, done that by letting her car run in a garage with no ventilation and
Yes.
dies that way.
And what I loved is she puts on this lipstick
Yep.
too. And
Hmm.
so she kind of did everything by her own, her choice, the way she wanted it, which I've seen that, and it's,
Hmm.
walking into kind of a death scene and bringing someone in the care of the funeral home where it's so planned and it's so methodically laid
Hmm.
out that this person was choosing this. It's not a rash decision, fly by the seat of their pants, like this is what they wanted. And she,
Hmm.
puts on that lipstick, closes the door, and revs the engine, and away she goes. And that's Melinda, who is 48.
Yep.
So a little Miss Melinda, which at 48, I don't know. I think we all have those big, heavy moments. It's just thinking life is still so getting started at that point. But
It really is. And it's
yeah,
also kind of at the point where maybe you're kind of starting to see that maybe you have less time than you've already had, and things maybe are a bigger deal that wouldn't have been maybe when you were in your 20s, but also, it's just an interesting thought because I often think, well, when now me in my 40s, I can handle a lot more than me in my 20s.
oh gosh,
Right?
yes.
Somebody breaks up with me, cool, bye.
Yeah.
Here's my 20s, that would have been, a lot more traumatic and emotional, but you just never know. And maybe for some people it's the opposite, and how you handle things that are happening in your life changes.
Yeah. When we dive in, this is one of those episodes which I kind of love where everybody's kind of in the same place. They're all going to go to this art gallery. And so Ruth asks Arthur if he will accompany her to the art gallery. So we're still in, schmarmy weird land here with Ruth and Arthur. And I think they're so interesting. I still like, is she attracted to him? Is it more about the catch? Is it like I can't figure out what her allure with him is, or if it's just his wacky personality, or
Well, I mean, I think he's a lot like she is, although 30 years younger,
yeah,
and it's kind of like maybe this is the kind of person that I, should have been with, but it's just, it's very awkward and uncomfortable because you can tell that they're both kind of interested, but it's just very businesslike almost and like
yeah.
super, professional, like how they interact with each other. It's very strange.
It is very odd.
I don't know. It just kind of gives you the creeps, but
We
yeah.
see, Rico, we've got Rico and his wife Vanessa, who her mom has died a few months ago, and she is going through some severe depression, paralyzing depression. If
Mhm.
this is not normal, and if
Right.
this is where you're in a state after a loss, especially a few months in, this is where you really need to get some help. And she just refuses. And is really battling against that. And so we're kind of seeing her on this journey, which plays out over the next few episodes in a lot of weird ways and in bad ways, but we're going to see kind of what's happening. But he's definitely um, worried about himself, or not himself, he's worried about her. And
Yeah.
his mind is with her and at home and, trying to make sure she's okay, but not knowing what
Well, and then
to
he's
do.
meeting, him and is it David or Nate? I forget that are meeting. And again, it's two funeral directors meeting with one person is so strange to me. I
And
don't,
they always do that. Yeah, it's a weird, that's not normal,
that
guys.
is not a good use of your resources as a business. There is no reason to have two funeral
Oh,
directors sitting
no,
there in an arrangement with
no.
one person. Like that's a bad business decision in my opinion. But and they're talking to the boyfriend of the lady from, the opening, and he's saying that he just recently broke up with her and he thought she was okay. But that when he had tried to break up with her before, she said that she would, do that if he did, and he didn't really believe her. So he's just kind of talking about that. And then, Rico starts asking him what kind of medication she was on and like all these really personal questions because he's thinking about Vanessa.
Vanessa,
And
like,
it's a
what
little
if
bit,
Vanessa does this and
yeah,
kind of thing? Like, what should I watch for almost? But
yeah.
I think it was Nate. I didn't write down who was meeting. Maybe it was Dave. I honestly don't know. But yeah, it was a weird interaction for sure. And it was odd that the ex-boyfriend was the one they're arranging. Like he has no legal to arrange anything for her.
No,
So he would not be probably who I would want to meet with at all,
no, not at all.
especially being an ex
Yeah, and it was weird because she was like leaving notes for all kinds of different people, so that would lead you to believe she has other
people.
people, but
Yeah, it's
who
odd.
knows? But we have to remember, I think we skipped over the part where also prior to that, Nate and Lisa were kind of arguing, and Nate was like, "Well, maybe we should split up. Maybe he was unhappy, and that's been going on for a long time in their relationship, and he's just not that into her, and that's the truth of it."
Yep.
And so they were having a conversation, and he got to the point where she was like, "Are you saying you want to split up?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, maybe." And so they're kind of in that place, and then now they're meeting with this man whose very recent ex, did end her life because of a breakup, and you've got Rico, and so it's kind of like all these they're trying to link all this together, essentially, as far
Somehow,
as yeah.
yes. And show you that you think about things in your own life when
Mhm.
you're meeting with families
Yes,
in
yes.
some ways. Yeah, so they decide they're going to split, but it's kind of a weird split, and we're going to learn more about that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Dave and Keith are going to therapy. Shock still. As we were saying, but right before we were starting and talking about this, and like, I don't remember a lot of the nuances of some of these relationships. I think my mind more remembers the deaths and the
Hmm.
people that died through the series. And I know some of the big points with the character stories, but I don't remember the nuances, except, man, Keith and Dave break up, get together, have this
Hour by
tumultuous,
hour. It's exhausting,
and they start at this point talking about having a threesome.
which they've
Sure.
already had,
Yep.
but it's like this whole big thing, and it's just, I mean, my God, I mean, every relationship has problems, but if it's that much, good grief. Um,
Lot.
no,
It's a lot. And it's hard. Like I loved their love story when it all first started, but the more it goes along and it's just so rough. It's like, okay, are they meant to really be together if they keep breaking up this much and things are happening? And Keith just seems to need something.
Keith
I feel.
seems to be angry, has a lot of anger stuff, and a lot of that, comes out in other episodes too, but it's to the point where like I try to be fair when I'm watching relationships because I'm old and I know that both people are the problem in most cases. But I'm like, damn, Keith is pretty rude and dismissive to David, like in a real, like, unhealthy way, like just the kind of the way he's very dismissive of him and just kind of shuts him down a lot. And I don't know, I don't like that. I don't know that I realized that the first time around because it was 25 years ago. And at that
Yeah.
time they were so much older than me and now they're younger than me. And I'm like, don't talk to him that way,
Yeah.
and but yeah, they need something. They're not fun to watch anymore,
No, I'm not
you
buying
know?
into their love and
Yeah,
amazing, like, and so it's hard to watch, I feel like some of their stuff. We got Brenda goes to her mom's apartment and is sitting with her mom, and her mom's trying to offer her a joint, and she's like, Mom, I've been clean. Like, I'm not drinking, I'm not, smoking pot.
right.
Like, no, and her mom's not being supportive. And so Brenda kind of gets a little pissed at her mom because your parents are supposed to be the supportive,
Well,
like,
your
hey,
mom's like
encouraging
a
you.
psychiatrist? Like, come on, lady.
Yes. Like that's a little detrimental to her healing path here to knock her off her straight and narrow. So
Yeah,
we realize we're all headed to the same place because Claire has this art show that she has a piece in, and Brenda and her mom are going because we find out later Billy's going to be there and everything. So it's kind of a all coming together. Everybody's coming to support Claire, and then Brenda and her family are all going to be there. And so it's like, it's like the waves coming to crash together, like what's going to happen?
when we have to remember, if you don't remember from last, I think it was last episode, Lisa had made an appointment with Brenda for a massage under a different name. So Lisa's going to be there, Brenda's going to be there, everybody's going to be in one spot. And just, I don't know how much time has passed in the show, but recently Lisa has gone to Brenda as a massage therapist, but under a different name, which is kind of weird. And her and Nate are having all these problems. So it's kind of like, oh my God, what's going to
What's going to
happen?
happen? You're like
Yeah.
waiting for the
Mhm.
explosion.
Yeah.
Well, they get there, and of course, Lisa, being Lisa, they see the woman who took Nate's virginity back in the day, the like hippie lady, and she has an art piece, and so that lady's joking with Nate, and they end up telling the story and blah blah blah. And of course, Lisa's like, kind of all pissed and everything. And, it reminds me of there's like this TikTok-y video that goes around and it says, there might have been women before me and, I might not be your first, but oh, forget it. I'm already pissed at this point kind of thing. Like, and I'm like, that's so true. That's
Oh
so
my
true.
gosh.
But like she just everything infuriates her and she's
Yeah.
so has no confidence, I feel like she knows that she's not solid and safe with Nate in a relationship
Yeah.
because they weren't meant to be in a relationship except for
Yeah.
her being pregnant.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, she
but
knows that he's just kind of resigned himself to being with her, and that's not a good feeling. And you're just kind of
no,
always waiting for the shoe to drop, I guess.
the
And
better person to come along
yeah,
and
yeah. And there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, I think a lot of us have been in relationships where somebody like, I don't know where if it was TikTok or if remember Pinterest. I don't know if you're still on
oh
Pinterest, but
yeah, I love Pinterest
yeah,
still.
okay. Pinterest and like, there's always these like quotes and it was something about how like in a relationship, you never want to be the one that loves the person more than they love you. You always want to be the one that loves less or something like that. Yeah. And it was kind of because then you're like the one in control of everything. But it's kind of like you can really see that. Like Lisa does love Nate and want to be his wife. And Nate is just, he's there, but she knows that
Yeah.
she's not who he wants.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she thinks it's Brenda who he does want.
I don't
Just
know that
think she
he,
doesn't. I think that she just doesn't feel like he wants to be with her, which he doesn't.
right.
But
That's true.
well, we've got this. Billy is there, and Claire's talking to Billy, and they talk about her art teacher who is showing pieces that he made like 15, 20 years ago at this thing because he has nothing new. Kind
No, and he's like, did you catch the part where they're like talking about how much they're pricing their thing at? And like Russell has this, I don't know what, I'm not artistic as something for it could be worth $1 billion or $5. I wouldn't know.
yeah,
And it's like, this sculpture or something, and he's got like $500 on it, and he's like, "Oh my God, is that too much money?" And her like thing is like $75 or
Yeah.
something. She's like, "Is that too much money?" And then the art teacher is like, "You should be glad if you can give it away." And then it like shows a shot of his thing, and his thing is priced at like $20,000. It's like,
Yep.
do people spend that kind of money on?
They
I
must.
don't. I mean, they must, but
I don't know who
that's
these
something.
people are. I don't know any of them, but I
I've
guess,
got a couple of artists I really like, but I mean, I'll buy their prints for like $100. Not,
yeah,
I
not
mean,
originals.
I'm
And
not gonna be no, because it doesn't. I don't know. Well, anyway, that was just kind of funny how he's like, you should be lucky to give your stuff away, and then his stuff is like so overpriced, and it's getting the impression this guy is, at the beginning it was like, oh, he was this super cool guy and like knew all this stuff, and now
yeah,
it's like the Russell and Claire and the students and them, they're figuring out he's kind of just a washed up old nobody now,
yeah.
and so like their level of like awe and respect for him is like declining rapidly.
Well, and she believes that Russell slept with him on that trip.
Right.
And so when she's talking to Billy, Billy says, "Oh, is that his new, or is he into girls or guys right now or something?" And there's
Yeah.
this comment, and he says, "Yeah, I slept with him back when I was a student." And so more and more comments and more things happen that lead Claire to believe that, yeah, they did sleep together. And
Yeah.
so she gets a little more concerned. There we finally the tides crash and Brenda and Lisa meet,
Yeah.
and she acts like she doesn't know her. But then
Right.
I love they run into each other in the bathroom, and she's like, "Well, why did you do?" And she's, I wondered how Brenda would react,
I did too.
and I loved her
I
reaction.
did too, because she didn't make her seem like it was okay what she did, but she was still compassionate because she knows Nate's what he
Right.
is. And
She just made a little comment, and she walked
yeah.
out. She's like, "That really was not okay," kind of thing, and just
No, she's like, no, that was weird. That was not okay. And then, Lisa started crying and she was like, but Nate doesn't love me and I'm just she's like, Nate doesn't even know who Nate is, or so I forget what she said, but she said something. She wasn't like, oh, it's okay. Don't, she's like, no, what you did was weird, but also like Nate is a problem, so she kind of validated her while still like not telling her what she did was okay, which is,
well, like, hey, Nate's gonna be with you. Because
yeah,
that's the kind of guy Nate is. Nate's not gonna like be married to you and go screw around everywhere. Like if he's with
yeah,
you, he's with you, kind of a thing. Which was nice too. We go to Rico. Rico, of course, is not at this gallery thing.
right.
And he's trying to romance, like this guy is
He
trying.
really is. And I wonder if this is cultural. I think it is partly cultural, maybe where like kind of like the depression and the medication. Because didn't something that he said in a previous episode about it, or someone said kind of gave you the impression that like culturally it was like it's not okay to be depressed, or it's not okay to
Right.
like it's something you have to get over and move on with. And so I think he just doesn't know what to do, because it wasn't, oh, here's what it was. He was like, aren't you taking the medication? She's like, yeah, it's been 2 weeks. It can take like a
Right.
long time to work, which is true. It has to like build up and all that. And he just has no understanding that you don't just take an antidepressant on Monday and you're better on Tuesday,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so he really is trying everything that he can think to do, but none of it is working or is going to work, because that's just not how any of that works.
And
So,
he's pouring some wine, and she's like, "Baby, I can't drink the wine because I'm on the
yeah.
medication." He's like, "Oh, okay." So, he ends up drinking the wine and falling asleep and whatever. He was trying. I
He
think it was
was.
sweet. It was sweet that he's trying to do something. He's also a person in a relationship, and you kind of want to have the physical connection with your person, and he wants his partner because that's got to be exhausting for so long pouring into one
Oh,
person and
yeah.
not getting any change and not knowing what to do, and um that has to be hard too. And so I think he's just trying to look for a moment of normalcy with her right now,
Mm.
and she's
Yeah.
just not having any part of it.
Yeah.
um we've got David, not David, Keith's off smoking weed with
Brenda's mom.
Brenda's mom and the art teacher guy in the back room. They were doing more than just smoking weed, weren't they? Though Keith
When
was,
they got back to the house. No. So
yes.
so the art thing, so Russell's like sculpture sells, but he doesn't know to who, and he's all like, oh, it was probably my mom, kind of which I would do that. I would buy my yeah, and so it was just kind of I mean, it was fine. Nothing really too much more happened there. Brenda goes back to her mom's house and opens the door, and her mom is in the middle of the deed with the art teacher.
The deed.
So now the art teacher has slept with her brother and her mother, and it's like, oh, God,
It's
I don't know.
gross.
Her
And
mom is
he's
just
so
so.
gross. Like I don't,
He's gross. He is gross.
yeah, he's just not, it's not like he's some like hunka man.
Not at
I
all.
don't get it. I don't get
Not at
the,
all. And then after the art show, Ruth and Arthur are back at the
well,
house.
first
Oh,
let's go back to the art show and Lisa and Nate and stuff at the art
oh
show.
yeah, yeah,
There's
sorry.
this weird like little pyramid thing
Hmm.
that you can go in. And so they go in and they're just sitting down and hanging out. And they have this discussion about the relationship. Basically, like, we don't need to be broken up and have these two separate lives for their daughter, but we can be friends and lovers, kind of casual, but
Yeah.
still, whatever, which I just don't see that working with Lisa, period.
No.
She does seem to kind of have this lightness about her that we haven't really seen. And then
Well, it's
Brenda,
better than nothing, I guess, is kind of like I think she's taking it as more of like a sign that they can get there. I don't know that that's what he's saying, but
no, I think
uh,
she's whatever connection she can have because
yeah.
I don't know who she would be if she doesn't have
Mhm.
Nate kind of thing.
Right.
And then Brenda comes in and sits with them and is chatting with them for a few minutes. And you're like, oh, which way is this going to go? But it was just totally normal and it seemed not too weird, but still weird.
These characters are weird in that like they have these arguments about stuff and then like they have these deep conversations about it and everything's okay again. And then the next day it's like it never happened. It's just I don't know. They're very it's just very I have not experienced those kinds of relationships where it's like in the morning we're gonna split up and then in the evening we're gonna everything's fine and then the next day everything's I don't know, it's very I guess it's a TV show is I guess why it's that way, but
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up with it would be exhausting to be in these relationships.
I would think so. I don't feel like you would get anything else done almost. Like
No.
they're consuming to
Yeah.
me. Um, well, yes. So then we're back at the funeral home and Arthur and Ruth are sitting awkwardly and they're having a drink and they're acting like these little 13-year-olds
Yeah.
for like giggling and like tickling at each other and like it's weird.
It's so weird. It kind of I don't want to say it, but it's kind of predatory in a way, maybe, but maybe
It's
not. But it
it
just
is
something about it is
not.
wrong. And I don't know what's wrong because they're both adults, but something about it is just you feel like ugh whenever
Well,
you
if it was a 50-year-old man and
yeah,
a 20 whatever 4-year-old girl,
yeah,
it would be very like Lolita like or whatever
true.
that, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I think because it's the opposite, it's like, how do you even think? I don't know. It's weird. And they're both consenting adults. They can do whatever. But I think because he seems so much younger.
I think that's it. He seems so like immature and unworldly,
It's
maybe.
like the older teacher taking advantage of like the teenage boy kind of thing. But it's not because they're both, of age and everything. But it's a weird. And
Yeah.
so she's like, will you lay with me, Arthur, or whatever? And so they like lay and they cuddle for a minute. And then he's like, okay, and good night to you. And he like gets up and leaves. And Ruth's like,
Yeah. Oh, she's like, don't you want to stay? And he's like, no, I'm okay.
And she, I think, felt super rejected because I think she
Yeah.
was basically saying, like, come stay the
Yes,
night
she was
with
saying
me.
spend the
And
night. Yeah, and he was just not even getting it.
nope, not even a clue.
Nope.
Um, David and Keith are at the bar. Keeps
Yep.
wanting to ask someone for a threesome. So, we've got,
Isn't that exhausting too, though? Like,
I
that
don't,
to me,
ugh.
like, I don't want to go to counseling and talk about having a threesome and talk about all these rules and do all this shit and then go try to find somebody. I, that is too much work. I'm
One.
too
I'm
old.
good. I'm
I'm
good with
too
one.
old.
One is enough work.
Commercial break. The TV, the show's coming back on. Let's get this done. Commercial break. Show's back on. That's it. That's where I'm at 42. But I'm thinking about it. I'm like, God, it's probably a weeknight, and these idiots are out of they've been to this art show. They probably went till like 9 o'clock. Now they're at a ball. I know the gay lifestyle. I'm one of them myself, but I'm an elder now, and I'm just like, you guys. I just, yeah, it's exhausting. Their relationship is not in a good place, and this whole thing is like they're just making it so much work.
Yeah,
That,
very much
know?
so. And is it bettering anything? No,
No.
it's making it all worse.
Like,
And
oh,
we
let's find somebody. I mean, the whole idea is that that's something that just more organically happens. Not like, okay, on Tuesday night, we're gonna go do this. Like, I don't know.
Thursday threesomes.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh. Oh.
Well, and we
Anyway.
we never cycle back around to the woman. We never like,
We do it. It's just the end of the funeral. The funeral's
yeah,
over, and the guy, and you don't see anybody but the boyfriend. He was like, "Oh, thank you," or whatever. Like you know nothing else about her. One of the things it's like I realize that as the show goes on, it becomes more about the family and the characters, and that's fine. But I do wish that it hadn't dropped so much off of the other things, because I
yeah,
think in this whole episode we might have had 4 minutes total,
maybe. Yeah.
maybe of any funeral home things, and it was like a minute or two of an arrangement and seeing the end of the funeral. We don't really go in the prep room much anymore. None of the deceased people are like talking to anybody anymore. So I do think they
Mhm.
kind of lost part of the show that made it so special as it became
Right.
just kind of more of a just a regular drama. Um, but that being said, I think they are still doing a decent job of showing different kinds of deaths
Definitely.
and showing how they relate to, the people that are in the show and that kind of thing. But I do wish they hadn't.
They missed such a mark here because of what someone looks like when they've died
Yeah.
this way. They are very
Yes.
red.
Yep.
They say cherry red. I've never seen anybody be that like a fire engine red, but
No.
people get very, very red. It's just the body response to that kind of a death. And
Mhm.
so seeing that and then seeing like the cosmetic side of it and Rico doing his thing, like, yeah, my wife's not doing great at home, but look where I'm a rock star right now is doing this. And,
Yeah.
that was such his wheelhouse. And we haven't seen him really
We
do that
haven't.
at all this season. And so I'm hoping we're nearing the end. We've got 10, 11, 12, 4 more episodes this season. And I'm hoping season 4 maybe we'll cycle back. Maybe this was a huge character building season or something.
Yeah.
I'm hoping,
Yeah. I
but
do. I do wish I wish that there was still more funeral home stuff in it.
yeah. Well, next week, guys, we're going to be doing episode 10 next week, which is called Everyone Leaves. And we'll dive more in and we'll find out. We do a little more funeral stuff next week that we can chat about, which is
A little
good.
bit more.
So
Yep.
we're trying. That's the part we really wanted to dive into and talk about, not just retell kind of the storylines, but really
Yeah.
talk about the accuracy and such. And all we can talk about is two people making arrangements, and yeah, that really just doesn't.
That doesn't happen. I mean, God, I can't. Can you
No.
think of any time where you've done that?
Only when we like. an apprentice sitting in
Oh yeah, well
or
yeah, yeah.
a new director that comes on board and needs to sit
Sure.
to kind of
Like
see your
training,
style.
but
But
yeah.
never like even when I've made arrangements for like let's say a husband wife die together and you're making arrangements for two people at one time, I still wouldn't do two people really.
Yeah, or even when you have like a huge amount of people that came to the arrangement, I've never
Two doesn't I don't feel like it benefits the situation.
I don't either. And I think it's just so awkward, especially if it is just one or two people. It's like I don't know, that can't be comfortable.
I would get annoyed
I
because
would get
if
annoyed too.
they talked over me or said something that was not what I would maybe say or didn't follow my path of how I go when I make an
It's
arrangement,
kind of like good cop, bad cop,
yeah.
like an interrogation. It's weird.
And you don't good funeral director bad. And they've done that before too, where they're like,
Yeah.
actually, we'll give you a deal because he's not going to. And they've done that during on the
It's
show. And I'm like, who? Nobody does this. This is not a tactic. This is not a
no.
sales tactic at a funeral home. This is weird. So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, we'll see if we get back to funeral home stuff next week and more about the deceased and everything. So, we will see you guys next week for episode 10.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.